right. Oh, of course. Okay, one problem. Oh no, is it Facebook? Really? Facebook's gonna be a problem? Okay, hang on folks, one sec. Got a little Facebook problem I want to resolve here. Because, hey, why should it be easy? So, welcome. If you're looking for the BA Zone, you're in the right place. I am a couple minutes late, and I do apologize for that. It's a lot harder doing the show alone, I must admit. But I have to just figure out why. Let me just check the details here. Something did not go right. So let me just double check here. That all seems correct. I said save it, so let's save it. All right, we're gonna try this one more time. Hang on. Want to get our friends on Facebook over here too. Oh man. All right, let me try one more thing. Always has to be a challenge. Something. Can I edit this? We're gonna try a live edit. Yeah, that'll be exciting. Oh my goodness, why is it not giving me the stream key? Yeah, that's nice. I don't really care right now. Facebook's giving me helpful messages that I didn't ask for and I don't need right now. Oh, see, this is the joy of live, folks. You just never know what's gonna happen. Looks like they changed the stream key, but they didn't tell me. Is that gonna work? Okay, I think we're winning. Yes? Yes! Love it when a plan comes together. All right. So we'll give that a second, but I think our friends on Facebook are joining, so that's all good. Hello, I hope everybody's having a good day. We won't do really a full pre-show here. I'm just going to vamp for a second while I make sure that Facebook actually does come up. I hope that you've had a pretty good day. I've kind of had sort of a Monday, but that's okay. 2 Mondays in a week, right? It's bound to happen sooner or later to the best of us. Okay, come on. Come on. I know you can do it, Facebook. Okay, there we go. We have Facebook. All right, and I will verify that we are good on YouTube. And how are my buddies over here on Periscope? Hopefully they're all okay too. Yes! No, that's not the one. Oh man, come on. Come on, come on, come on. So, oh, I should explain. You people don't know the voices in my head. Okay, so before I dive in, let me just explain. Yeah, I know recently Marianne has been doing the show and I've just been producing, and I have to say, that's much easier for me. Not that it's easy, but it's easier than trying to do everything. But unfortunately, she can't be here tonight because she is actually at a client. So until she figures out how to be in 2 places at once, and I keep telling her to work on that, I'm going to jump in and do tonight's show. So hopefully that's okay with everybody. Hey, John. Yes, we are here. Oh, I should probably put the camera on too, huh? Yes. See, we are here. Okay. Yeah, so it's much more of a challenge to try to do a show and produce a show all at the same time. There's just no two ways about it. It is a challenge. But we will succeed because that's what we do as business analysts, right? May get a little messy, we may get our hands dirty, but we get there. Okay, hey Susan, how you doing? So basically tonight is everything I shouldn't do in a show. So the beginning of the show tonight is what not to do when you're live streaming. So feel free to take that as a free extra lesson. Okay, so that being said, I am going to be your guide this evening, and we are going to talk about a question that has popped up a lot lately, is whether or not introverts are a good choice for business analysts. And I'll just cut right to the chase in case you don't have any time. Yes, we're awesome at it. But I'm going to get into it in a little bit more detail, so let me get the show started and we will dive in. Hang on. Okay, and you know, I probably should have checked before this whether or not I have a mic. Okay, I'm pretty sure you people would have told me if I didn't have a mic. So I guess we are good to go. We will take that. Okay, so the big question of the night is, if you are an introvert, should you even bother applying to be a business analyst? And I can tell you yes, because I am one. Now, I know a lot of people are like, no, that's not possible. You're talking on a camera and you're doing live streaming. And I'm like, well, you know, what you really don't realize is that live streaming is kind of perfect for us introverts. But we will get into all that. Before we do, let's start off at the very beginning. And I will spare you my song. What was that? Sound of Music. That's what just popped into my head. I won't sing it for you. I'll be kind. All right, 1 sec here. So the question of the evening is, can you succeed as a business analyst if you are an introvert? And as I've already explained to you, the short answer is yes. Let me get my controls up here. Seriously? Okay, well, if I had to do it without controls, I will. Oh, man. Mare, where are you? I need you. Okay. It's okay. We're going to survive. Okay, yes. So before we go too far, I do want to cover the basics, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about introverts. And I like to clear that kind of stuff up. I like to start everybody off from the same spot. I find it makes life easy for everybody if we're working with the same vocabulary. So, introverts. A lot of people think that that means that we are shy, afraid, antisocial. These are not true at all. Okay? We're not shy at all. We're not afraid, and we have no problem with people. What we are is Okay, Susan says you can hear me. That's good since I'm diving in here. Thank you, Susan. So let's start from the other side. So extroverts get their energy by interacting with other people. And the bigger that crowd of other people, the better for an extrovert. Introverts are the opposite. We find large crowds, large gatherings of people, especially people we don't know, to be draining. That doesn't mean that we don't like it. It just means that it takes more energy out of us to function in that type of an environment. We do really well one-on-one. We do really well in small groups. We do super well with people that we know and trust and have some experience with. But we absolutely can go out and go to a party, go to a business meeting, talk to people, get the information, you know, interview, all the stuff that needs to be done as part of being a business analyst. It just takes us a little bit of extra prep. And afterwards, we might need a little bit of downtime to recharge our batteries. This is not a bad thing. This is not a failing. I know introverts tend to hear that from people, but don't fall for it. Okay, just because we recharge our batteries differently than other people doesn't make it a problem. It just means that you need to be aware of yourself. You need to be aware of when your batteries are low, what works best for you, and work with that. And we're going to talk more about that in a second. But just to review, no, not shy. No, not afraid. Believe me, if you knew me in real life, you'd know that was the case. Okay, and we are not antisocial just because we need some alone time. It's not the end of the world because we want some alone time. Yes. I have to send this up. Okay, here. As John says, insert rant here. If I'm going to be here, you're going to get a rant occasionally. It's just part of the package. Yes, definitely a little bit of a rant there. Okay. So, let's move on. Come on. Oh, I really need you to move forward. There you go. Okay, so let's talk about what it is about being an introvert that makes us so amazingly awesome at being business analysts. I'm not patting myself on the back at all. Of course I am. So because we are business analysts, because we have to collect information from other people, it's really important that we are good listeners. And it just so happens that introverts are very good listeners. Now that does not mean that extroverts can't be good listeners. It just means that we don't have to work at it as hard as sometimes extroverts do. Extroverts that I've worked with and I've coached as being a business analyst, sometimes you have to remind them to stop talking. Because that's their nature. Their nature is outgoing, gregarious, and they want to, keep communicating. But sometimes they fall into that trap of just talking, and they forget to take that breath and let the other person talk. Whereas that's the starting point for introverts. Introverts start off by listening to the group, by reading body language, all that kind of good stuff. We are very aware of the nonverbal in addition to the verbal. Obviously easier in person, but we also tend to pick it up pretty well, over the phone or over a video call or whatever too. So that is one of our innate capabilities, and it is one of the things that comes in very handy as a business analyst. Okay, yes, absolutely, Susan. Also, Susan's nailed it exactly. An introvert, extrovert is a range, and it can be situational. It is absolutely 100% a range. Like anything else, you know, there are extremes on both ends, and then there's always that happy place in the middle. And it can be highly situational. Particularly, I mean, that kind of gets back to what I was saying before. If an introvert is in a situation with people that they have worked with before, that they are comfortable with, that they are familiar with on any level, that does tend to move them a little bit more towards the middle of the scale. Whereas if they're dealing with people they haven't met before, they're going to kind of hold off a little bit, assess the situation, get a read on the room before they start to dive in. So that's absolutely true. And welcome to fall. Hang on one sec. Yeah, this is what I need tonight. Okay, there. So, absolutely, 100%. The next thing is that we notice details. So we are highly detail oriented because we tend to, which is the next farther down, but focus is a thing with us. We tend to be able to focus in for long periods of time, and because of that we do notice the details that maybe other people would eventually get to, but we tend to notice them faster and sometimes more in the moment. So it's sort of the difference between, you know, like as people are running through in like a requirements meeting, and you're collecting stuff and there's all kinds of ideas being thrown out and people are talking about their pain points and all that. We're more likely going to pick up on that little thing that somebody else has glossed over. It's more likely to ping up for us because we're paying attention to those kind of details and making those kind of connections a little bit faster, mainly because we are probably at that point sitting back and just absorbing and making quick notes. We are well known for preparing. Introverts don't like surprises generally. So they tend to prepare and over-prepare. That's also part of what makes us really good at being business analysts, because we don't just look at, you know, what's the most likely case or the most likely chain of events that's going to happen. We also think about, well, what could happen? What about if? What about that? What about if we don't have? So we tend to try to make sure that we have plans in place for all of those kinds of things, or at least that we've considered them, so that if they bubble up, we're ready to deal with it, which tends to make people kind of look at us as like, you know, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, because we're always prepared. But there's a reason for that. We tend to think through all the permutations of the possibilities of a situation, just because we feel better, we feel more secure, we feel more confident when we have that kind of thing taken care of. Yes, Periscope, I do see you. And I'm very happy that you're all here. Thank you so much. And that's a good point. I should just check. Yes, okay, we are doing good. Just making sure that everything is still up, because it's been that kind of day. So there's that. We definitely, we're big on being prepared, and focus is just sort of a thing. So here's a slice of life story, particularly about the focus thing. I think I've told you I probably haven't, because I haven't talked to you guys in a while. It's been Mare talking to you. So I've recently started a gig. And it's the typical gig that I get pulled in on. And actually I was referred for this one because it's a situation where it's a small company that got bought by a big company. But of course the small company had been pushing to try to get attention and get somebody to look at them and to get clients. And in that situation, it's very normal that there's absolutely no documentation. They've got a great tool. It's doing exactly what the clients want. It's very flexible. It's got a lot of positives. But in order to get to the next level, they can't just keep flying by the seat of their pants anymore. That said, they're still moving at 200 miles an hour also. So they brought me in to dive in and document the hell out of everything, basically. But do it with, as little hands-on time with the important developers and DBAs and all that kind of stuff, because those folks are swamped. So case in point, so today something came up that there's a problem with the messaging that's coming up. There's some confusion with the user base, and there's also some concern that maybe there's some overlapping messaging happening. Of course, there's no single database for it. It's all embedded in the code. All the things that you don't want to see, but this is the real world. This is the real life. This is how things get done, especially when they're trying to get things rolling. So it's not like I can just go into a database and do a couple of SQL queries and get all the messages. That's not going to happen. So I spent all day today going through the test environment and trying to cause messages to happen. Now, it just so happens that is my superpower. I'm very good at blowing up software. So where somebody else might have had to struggle a little bit more to get some of these messages to come up. I was pretty successful getting it to come up, but then I needed to get some sort of sense of the breadth of possibilities. So what I had to do was go into each client and repeat the process over and over again. And there were 26 clients in the test database. They've got more than that, obviously, but the 26 is the data that they use for development. Most people who I interacted with today, who found out I was doing this, acted like I was being punished, which I found kind of funny. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's tedious, but I don't mind it because it's that kind of focus project that I excel at. Like, I'm really good at going through and doing this kind of methodical thing, and in the process I actually noticed something that at first I thought was a bug but actually wasn't, and I'm really impressed with. They actually took the time when they were doing this with everything else that was going on to make sure that their messages were grammatically correct. So if it is a case where one record has the issue, it's written in the singular. If it's multiple records, it's written in the plural. I'm so impressed by that. I can't tell you the number of times I've had arguments with developers about that. So, this is where the focus, comes in, and the details comes in, because I picked up on the pattern. I kept going. First I noted it as a bug, and then as I went along I realized, nope, not a bug. This is a feature, and these developers are cool. So that is just one round of things that are good about being an introvert. Now, again, just to reiterate, I am not picking on the extroverts. I am not picking on the ambiverts or anybody else. This is just the stuff that sort of comes built into us, and it works really well for the BAs. Of course, anybody else can do this too. It's going to take a little bit more effort from them. It's going to be a little bit more tiring for them, and they're going to need to develop their own set of skills and tricks to keep their mind focused on this kind of a project when their brain starts to get a little bit worn down by it. Whereas us, we kind of feed off of this, and as you can tell, I got quite perky doing this project. Because it's my thing. All right, one more round of positives. Because we are who we are, we tend to communicate really well through the written word. There's a couple different reasons for that. One is it gives us the time to refine our message, to think it through, to make sure all the details are there, to organize it in a way that will work for everybody, because that's important to us. So we tend to project that on everybody else. It also is really good because part of being a good writer is also being able to think through problems, and those two go hand in hand, and they are just the core of being a business analyst. So it's another situation where something that we naturally gravitate towards, if I can text somebody or write them an email, I will always choose that over getting on the phone with them. It feels more efficient to me. I mean, again, not that I have a problem with the social niceties, I don't, but when you get somebody on the phone, there's sort of a social contract of how was your day, how's life going, hey, how's your kid, and all that, which is all fine and good. It's not that I'm not interested in that, but when I've got a deadline, I kind of need to get past that and get to my answer really fast. And also, and I know not everybody agrees with me, but phone calls to me always feel like an interruption. I never know if when I'm calling somebody, it's a good time to call them. And even if I text them beforehand and say, is this a good time, I've already interrupted their flow. So I always prefer, email, get a chance to think it through, give examples, put screen caps in, all that kind of stuff, so that it's clear. And the goal being for me, send an email, have them get information, get an answer back in one round. Where that always doesn't work as well when you're on the phone. And text messages, of course, they're good to a certain degree, but you're limited in how many characters. So that is definitely one of the things that makes us excellent at being a BA. And then, of course, the fact that we have to write requirements for people that we will never meet. So we are, by nature, more likely to think about, okay, well, how can this be misinterpreted? Is there a better way for me to explain this? Do I need to provide something in addition to the words to help communicate this? Do I need to put a wireframe in? Do I need to put an example in? So that, again, is just how we are wired. We are, of course, self-motivated. I've never met an introvert who wasn't. By that I mean we set our own bar. Nobody can ever set the bar higher for us than we set for ourselves. That's just how we work. And we evaluate and we decide how well we've done. Now, it's always nice to get feedback, you know, from your teammates, from clients, from management, especially when they're happy. But, you know, nobody's as hard on us as we are. Nobody is able to judge our success as well as we are, because we have criteria built into us that says, you know, what is going to be good enough. Do I need to, I did not say, so John is saying, do I need to dumb this down? No, that is not what I'm saying. Oh, John. No, it's not about dumbing it down. It's about not wasting the other person's time. It's about making sure that the answer that they give you is actually the answer to the question. Because if I'm not being clear and you give me an answer and then I realize that that's not the answer I want to, I have to go back to, I'm bothering you. And maybe you feel bad because you didn't give me the answer on the first try. So no, it's not about that, John. Okay. So yes. The other thing is that we think things through. I mean, to me, like this is all just one pile. I tried to break it out into bullets, but for me, it's like one thing, because we think things through. This ties into the fact that we're writers. It's the fact that we're detail-oriented, the fact that we're focused. You know, again, it gets back to the thing I was talking about before. We not only look at, okay, you know, we've got this goal or this issue, what's the goal or solution or the approach we're going to take, but we also look at it from the other points of view. Well, okay, if this is the main one, but what about when this happens? What about when this happens? What about when this happens? What happens if this happens and then the next step breaks something? That, again, is just the way we're wired. We naturally gravitate towards that thought process, and not everybody does. Again, not that everybody can't. They can, and they do learn it. But for us, it's just a little bit more automatic. Okay, and also, yes, we are insightful and we are empathetic, because empathic. Oh man, I always get messed up with this word. Anyway, it's up there. You'll figure it out. That can be okay. So yes, Susan is making another good point. So that can be a problem with email, being clear and getting the answer you actually need. Yes, absolutely. And that's why it's always good. You know, people tend to like try to fire off emails the way they fire off a text. And generally, you know, you're going to do better if you take that extra couple of seconds to review it. Again, look for ways that it might be misinterpreted, or places where your brain already knows this part, but now you can't expect the other person to have that. So you want to make sure you've got all the pieces there so they can give you the information that you need. But if you do that, and the other side being that the other person has to actually read it. But if you get both of those pieces there, you know, email can be great. But yes, it can also spiral out, particularly if, you know, the person doesn't, you know, take the time to read it, or doesn't have the time to read it because, thank you, yes. I still can't say it though, Susan. I should have used a different word. The other problem with email is if you try to include too many people in it. So if you send out an email, you know, to, you know, 1, 2, 3 people to get the answer you need, that's generally okay. When you start mass mailing emails and it turns into an 18-mile thread and people are answering part of it and confusing other parts of it, that tends to not be so helpful. So you do want to make sure that you are finding the right person to ask, that you are taking the time to write that email in a way that is concise enough that you're not wasting their time, but not so concise that they're having to read your mind. All those things will help improve the success rate of your emails. All right, I'm going to try it again. Empathetic. No, see, I can't. All right, next time I'll use a different word. Okay, so let me just do a quick check here and see how everybody's doing. Susan, I should bring you in on a on a Phoenix call just to say this word for me, right? Oh my goodness. Okay, good. So, oh good, we're rolling along here. All right, so having said all this, you know, hopefully it will make all of the folks out there who are being told that they will not be able to succeed as a BA because they're an introvert, that they won't be able to do it. Please don't listen to those people, because it's not the case. The other thing, and I'm just jumping back here for a second. So, and actually, let's go back for a second. So when I went through this list and I said, did come up, right? Yes, okay. You know, that we're not shy, we're not afraid, we're not antisocial. What I'm talking about here is the pure definition of an introvert, okay? when people say, introverts are shy or they're anxious or, they're afraid or antisocial, what they're doing is they're mixing it up with social anxiety. And that's, it's a real thing. And it's certainly possible for an introvert to also be socially anxious. Absolutely. But the pure definition of an introvert is not these things. It's just the way that we recharge, the way that we need, to manage ourselves and be aware of ourselves when we're going into a situation. So let me just back up a little bit here. So if you're socially awkward, if you are shy, if you are afraid, if talking to people bothers you, that's a whole other situation. But again, it's also not a reason to not go after this as a career if it is something that is interesting to you. The important thing here is to be aware of your strengths and weaknesses, and everybody's got them. Nobody has got a long pile of positives and no negatives. I mean, that's just not how the world works. So it's about, knowing these things about yourself and finding solutions, finding the tools that make it possible for you, despite the negative side of things, to move forward, which is generally, take the positives, bump them up as high as you can, and learn how to manage the negatives and give yourself that permission to deal with a moment when it comes up. So like, for example, sometimes, when I have to go on, client sites and business calls, I make sure that I get a lot of downtime beforehand, because I know that I'm going to be on, and talking to a lot of different people and having to run at a higher RPM than I'm used to for a long period of time. And if I get to a point where I start to feel completely drained, I find some way to give myself, 5-minute break. So, whether that's a walk around the building or, jump out of a meeting to go and do some research, which, it's usually research, but it's, research quiet in a room someplace to give myself a chance to recharge those batteries. It's the same thing if you're socially awkward. You can find tools and you can go and get help. There are all kinds of people out there that can help you find ways to manage things and then get yourself to the point where you can deal with the things that you find hard to do so that you can do the things that you do really well. Okay, so I didn't want to forget that because that's important. Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. Yes, exactly, Susan. I really should have called you in for this one. I didn't think about it. You would have been perfect host for this. That's absolutely, yeah, that's it. I mean, to me, that is everybody's solution in life. However we end up getting labeled, whether we're labeling ourselves or somebody else is doing it, there's a good side and a bad side to it. And as soon as you figure out how to balance it, as soon as you figure out what works best for you, you can deal with these other situations. It's, obviously harder in some situations than others, but you always can find a way to do it. It's just a matter of thinking about it and being prepared, which gets us back to that other stuff I was talking about. Okay. That said, there are absolutely challenges being an introvert, which we've kind of, touched on, but let's really go through it here. We definitely don't like interruptions. While I was doing that project today where I was really trying to focus and it was, paying attention to all the details and working through, in a repetitive pattern, all the things, looking for the messages, looking for the patterns, I got 2 phone calls while I was doing that. And, I knew when the phone rang that I was annoyed, and it wasn't the person who was calling fault. It was because of my mindset in that moment. So I took an extra half a second to gather myself, and then I answered, dealt with it, and got off. But I had lost ground. I had to double back a little bit to get back into my groove. And then, of course, the second one happened, and I had to repeat the process. But I've learned over time that, that it's important for me to do that, because if I immediately pick up the phone while I'm still in that annoyed moment, and it's a moment. But if I pick up the phone in that annoyed moment, I communicate it, which is not good because it's not fair to that person. So I give myself that extra half a ring before I answer the phone, because that way I get it back and then I can have the conversation with the person. We can be quiet. And a lot of people see this as a negative thing. I don't see it that way. But because I'm an introvert. Being quiet is what feeds into us being a good listener. It feeds into us hearing everything that's going on and picking up the patterns and maybe picking up that other quiet person who has said something really important who maybe the rest didn't hear because they were so busy talking. So then we can grab that and bring that up and highlight that moment. So it is not necessarily a bad thing to be quiet. You will get a lot of people who are, pushing you to be, more outgoing or loud or speak up or whatever. Understand that they think they're helping, even though it doesn't feel that way all the time. But also by the same token, acknowledge that in yourself and be aware of the fact that you do at some point need to stiffen the backbone and speak up at the right time. And you need to make sure that the fact that you are naturally quiet does not mean that other people are running over the top of you all the time. You need to be able to speak up and stand up for yourself at the right time. I'm not saying throw chairs or anything, but make sure that you speak up, that you get yourself heard, because sometimes people automatically just ignore because you're coming across quiet. Teach them teach them it's a mistake to assume that being quiet means you don't know what's going on. We don't like being put on the spot, okay? So it's very common, especially as you're going through the requirements process, because by the time you get to the requirements process, somebody's already desperate for the solution to be pushing you to give give an answer, give a solution right now in this moment. I've given you the information and now in 4 seconds I want an answer. It's fine for them to want that, and it's also fine for that to not happen. You need to find ways to manage it, find ways that you're comfortable managing that kind of stuff. And again, try as much as you can to use that being prepared side of our brain, to be prepared for those kind of moments, anticipate the kind of things that might come up so that you have the answer ready. But just because, somebody decides that they want, everybody to just start throwing things out on the table and solving the problem in that second doesn't mean that it's going to. But you do need to manage it. You need to set expectations. You need to have ways to say that you get it, you understand, and you're going to get back to them and give them a timeline. A lot of times that's really what they're looking for. Say that you've collected this information, you're going to go get some additional information, and you're going to get back to them tomorrow or the day after or whatever, and then make sure you do that. Even if you don't have all the information, if you have not been able to get everything, you still get back to them in that time frame, because that way you're building up the trust that you're working on it and you're not just blowing them off. And we need to recharge. And people say that this is a challenge. I don't really think it is, but again, it is how other people see it. So again, for example, if you're going to be out at a client meeting, because these are the things that are usually the most draining. If you're going to be say you're part of the team that's going to the conference, and so you're having to be on the conference floor, you're having to be in meetings, you're having to do meet and greets and breakfast and lunch and all that kind of stuff. And by the time that they want you to go to the client dinner, you might be ready to go and climb into a closet someplace. You need to learn how to manage it. Again, rather than getting to that point in the day, it's better to take 5 minutes throughout the day to go and quietly recharge. Again, the walk around the building, longer trip to the restroom, whatever it takes, offer to go and run and get the extra supplies from the supply room, whatever it takes, so that you're not getting to that point. A lot of the time, you're going to have to judge for yourself. I mean, you may get to the point where, you just can't do the client dinner. What I try to do, and I'm just going to throw this out there, if it is the kind of thing where it's one client dinner after a very long day, I will take my 5 minutes to adjust, maybe go make some phone calls or check email or whatever beforehand and then go join them, because it's just the one time, and if you don't go, you're going to miss something. If it's the kind of thing where you're going to be a client for a week and they want to do this every night, it's okay to pick 1 or 2 nights and beg off. Hey, I've got some work I need to get caught up on. Hey, there's an issue with the office, whatever it is, to give yourself that time. There's nothing wrong in a week of meetings and conferences and all that kind of stuff to sit in your room and eat your dinner and read a good book. Okay? So, Susan, awesome. So Susan says she's an ambivert, which I would assume is true. I haven't met you in person, but that's the vibe I pick up. So I have my quiet times. But someone being quiet makes you wonder what they're planning. Yes, that can absolutely be the truth, and sometimes that works to your advantage. So don't fear that world. Yes, never take us for granted. But yeah, I mean, the quiet times are important. And again, it's not that, extroverts never turn off either. It's just that they recharge by being in the group. Extroverts find it very hard to not be in a group, to be, alone or just with a couple people. So yes, absolutely. Let's see. So John says, introverts can come off as cold-hearted too, because we don't always respond as fast as they think you should. Absolutely, yes. The words I hear all the time are aloof, standoffish, cold. What are some of the other ones I get a lot? Those are the ones that pop into my brain right now. antisocial. I get antisocial a lot. But that's just it, because I take the time to think about things, and that throws some people off. I don't know what. Well, I do know why. But that's absolutely true. That it does throw people off. And again, it's the kind of labeling thing that, that's going to happen, and you have to be at least aware of it, and be okay that sometimes that's what people are going to think. You can't control the way other people think. You can't control the way you react to it. That said, if you're starting to hear it a lot from the same people, you do maybe want to find a way to address it, to make things balance out a little bit more. There's another thought that came in here, and it is gone. All right. Oh, I know what. That's the other one. The other one I get a lot, and I swear this is just because I'm an introvert, is that, well, I just had this one the other day. Something along the lines of, I'm a Susie know everything. Wasn't exactly that phrasing, but that was kind of where they were going with it. And I followed up on it, because it was a weird statement that came out of nowhere. And this person was clearly angry about it, trying not to be, but I mean, very clear from the body language and all that something was just bothering this person. And it's somebody I haven't worked with, is in this new gig. So we had a chance that I just something's not right. What did I do that is annoying you? Let me know. I'm not aware of what triggered this. And it took a while, and she's like, well, how come, every time, you say something in the meeting, everybody's like, oh yeah, that's it, whereas when I say things, I'm constantly getting shot down. And it was a tough moment, because I knew the answer, but I didn't know how to say it to her. So, I just kind of went with well, maybe I've gotten lucky kind of a thing. And it did seem to diffuse her a little bit. But I know what it was. It's because she's an extrovert, and she just says everything that comes into her mind. She has no filter. She's not nasty. She's not wrong. It's just that she doesn't give herself time to kind of work through her thought process and then come out with a single statement. So it feels to everybody like it's all over the place. Whereas I'm the other side of the coin. I don't say anything until I've got it all figured out in my head, and then I bring it up, which is why it seems like people are automatically always going with my answer. It's not that so much as I've listened to everybody, I've thought it all through, I play through all the angles, and so the suggestion I make is just always a little closer to the mark, and it's also always just 1, not 80. So that is the other side of that too. It's like, it's not that either one of us is wrong. It's not that either one of us isn't trying to achieve the same goal. It's just that we have very different approaches to it. And that's okay. But yeah, hopefully I've been able to manage that. I'm going to try to keep an eye on it around her, because it was really an issue for her. And I don't know if this is you never know, is this some childhood thing bubbling up? Who knows? But I am going to keep an eye on it, because she's a good person and she's very smart, and I don't want to lose her as an ally on the team, because she's bringing a lot to it. Okay. Anything else from anybody? Let me just double check. I think we are good. I am not 100% sure what's going to happen next week, because I'm not exactly sure. Mara isn't sure about her schedule yet, but one of us will be here to do the show. I guarantee that. We are here every Thursday. See, because I've been talking, I haven't been doing my other job. You can join the mailing list, because that's always the first people who find out what the show is going to be. As soon as we figure it out, we let the mailing list folks know. So if you want to be in on the information first, you can just go to the BA Zone /mailing list. We don't sell the list. We're not using it to do anything other than communicate with you, so you don't have to worry about that. And if you have a question, a comment, if you have a topic you want us to cover, feel free to let us know. That's where most of our great ideas come from. Great ideas. Most of our good content's coming from you folks, let's be honest. And that's what we're here for. We're here so that all the BAs have a place to have the conversations that they can't necessarily have, at work. Especially since, and we're hearing a lot from solo BAs. It's really hard to be the only BA in a shop. So, hey, we're here. We'll be part of your team. So let us know if you have a question, if you're up against a problem, if you've got a question about a technique. Let us know. We're happy to cover it. You can visit us at thebazone.com. There's a contact form there. Or you can reach out on Twitter. So we're the BA Zone there. You can tweet at us or you can DM us, and we are more than happy to answer questions, or if you want to give us topics, we are thrilled to have ideas for content. The other thing is, hello Murphy. Murphy just woke up. The other thing I do want to let you know is that we are actually in our anniversary month. So it was a year ago in October that we started doing the live show. So we're very excited about that. So at the end of the month, we're going to do a little anniversary show thing. We're working out the details, but it's going to be just a fun show. So if you need a break around Halloween, it'll be just before Halloween, the day before. So I hope you will come and join us because that's going to be a fun one. All right, everybody good? Thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry for all the juggling I had to do. I'm already out of the habit of doing the show alone. I clearly need to keep up on that. But hopefully Mare will be back next week and everything will go smoother. Till then, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to hear from you. Hope you have a good week, and we will talk soon. Bye.